Dear friends, welcome to this week's virtual drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege of Parshas Yisro, and the parsha contains what could only be described as one of the most profound, monumental events, not only for Klal Yisrael, but an event which changed the trajectory of human history. Of course, what I refer to as Matan Torah, Sinai revelation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu appears to Klal Yisrael, talks to us, literally again converses with our entire nation, gives us the Aseres HaDibros, the 10 Commandments, and then ultimately afterwards Moshe Rabbeinu ascends to the mountain, comes back down and delivers the entire body of Torah to the fledgling Jewish people. This was not simply an event which gave us a set of laws, but rather again, Matan Torah, Sinaitic revelation, was the way in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created and concretized his everlasting bond, relationship, and covenant with Klal Yisrael. But the Gemara records a fascinating detail. The Pasuk says, this is in Parak Yotes Pasuk Yedzayin, chapter 19, verse 17. Vayotze Moshe Asa'am Likras Elokim. In just the beautiful imagery, Moshe Rabbeinu takes Klal Yisrael out to greet HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chazal call it almost like a chassan going out to greet the Kalo. So Moshe Rabbeinu takes Klal Yisrael towards the mountain to greet HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Min ha'machana, they leave the camp. Vayisyatzvu betachtes hahar. Now, the way we normally translate that is that they camped betachtes hahar, at the base of the mountain. But the truth is, the literal translation is Vayisyatzvu, they camped, or they encamped, betachtes hahar, underneath the mountain. But what does that mean? So here we have an incredible Gemara Mesechas Avodah Zarah, very well-known Gemara Avodah Zarah, Daf Beis Amud Beis 2b, and the Gemara says, what does this mean that they camped underneath the mountain? Melamed shakafa HaKadosh Baruch Hu har kegigis al Yisrael. This teaches us that the Rebbe Shalom suspended the mountain like a barrel over Klal Yisrael. Literally, again, he suspended the mountain over our heads, and he said, if you accept the Torah, good. And if not, sham tehei kvuraschem. There you will be buried. A very strange Gemara, an enigmatic Gemara. And of course, the most basic question is, this is the same people who said Na'aseh v'nishma. They made the ultimate statement of blind faith. We will do and we will accept, right? We accept, right? Na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do and we'll hear later on. In other words, who buys something without reading the fine print? Who commits something without understanding what the commitment entails? And yet, Klal Yisrael says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're in. Na'aseh. We don't even know what we're saying we're going to do. But whatever it is, v'nishma, we'll hear the details later on. Such a profound statement of blind faith. If that's the case, why the need for what appears to be compulsion? Hashem holds Har Sinai up, and that's what it means. They were literally standing. They were camped underneath the mountain because Hashem had dislodged the mountain, suspended it over the heads of Klal Yisrael. What appears to be a threat: accept the Torah, or you're going to be buried. And again, like we said, obvious question. First of all, they already accepted. Number two, they made a statement of tremendous blind faith. So what's the pshat? Why the need for this compulsion? So the Maharal and others explain so beautifully a very basic idea. Na'aseh v'nishma is beautiful. Na'aseh v'nishma is like inspiration at a kumzitz, inspiration at a shalosh of this. It's great. Your eyes are closed, you're rocking back and forth, tears streaming down your face, and you're like ready to take on the whole spiritual world. It's great. And then what happens? Right? The kumzitz is over, the lights go back on, shalosh of this is over, you make havdalah. And then often the way inspiration works is it's easy come, easy go. Something is turned on in me, so I'm very inspired. But often that feeling is fleeting. And so Na'aseh v'nishma was this incredible, overwhelming moment of inspiration where Klal Yisrael had such incredible clarity that they were willing to go ahead and say, yes, we're in. We don't even know what we're in for, but we are in. And the HaKadosh Baruch Hu was teaching us that's beautiful. But there also has to be an element of compulsion in your Yiddishkeit as well. Why? Because there are going to be times when the alarm goes off in the morning and you're not going to feel like getting out of bed. You're not going to feel like davening. You're not going to feel like learning. Or there are times when Shabbos comes in early in the afternoon and you're going to feel like, I could just press the 18 minutes. Or there are going to be times when you should give more tzedakah, but I worked hard for my money. I want to keep it for me. There are plenty of times where we are uninspired. If all I am is a Na'aseh v'nishma Jew, then what propels me forward in those moments where I lack inspiration? What pushes me forward in those moments where I'm not feeling it? That, says the Maharal and others, is where the compulsion element comes. Kadosh Baruch Hu holds the mountain, be inspired. Inspiration is great. But in those moments where there's no inspiration, which is for many of us a lot of moments in life, feel a sense of duty. a sense of responsibility, a sense of, yes, compulsion. I know we don't like saying that in 2026 to feel compelled to do something, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ageless and timeless. Torah is ageless and timeless. HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands that for us to feel successful, we have to feel a sense of duty, a sense of commitment, and a sense of compulsion to do things even when we don't feel like doing them. That's I think, the classic stream of thought in this. But perhaps there's another approach in what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was trying to accomplish by holding the mountain over us as well. A number of years ago, I had an opportunity to participate in a program in which Holocaust survivors were being interviewed. And I interviewed a holy couple here in Baltimore, Mr. and Mrs. Kalb. And I spent most of my time interviewing Mrs. Kalb, Mrs. Goldie Kalb. And she was an incredibly remarkable woman. And fascinatingly enough, she was part of the last selection at Auschwitz. So I was doing this interview for an organization. They had a number of scripted questions. But then I had the opportunity to kind of add in some of my own questions. And I asked her the following question. I said, I want to read you how I asked it. How did you find the strength to rebuild after the horrors you experienced? Because after all, isn't that the biggest question? Those of us who come from survivor families often look at our parents or our grandparents and we don't understand the strength. We don't understand, how are you even remotely normal? How do you get out of bed in the morning? How did you get married? How did you raise a family? How did you go to work? How did you smile? How did you laugh? How did you not simply curl up in a ball in the corner and rock back and forth in the fetal position, overwhelmed by the horrors that you saw? How do you have the ability to look at a spouse or a child and not remember everything that you lost? So this was the question I asked Mrs. Kalb. How did you find the strength to rebuild after the horrors you experienced? And I wrote down her answer afterwards, after the interview was complete. I was so overwhelmed by the profundity and the simplicity of it. She said, I never stopped believing in the Almighty. Even when so many had given up, I knew He was always with me. Dear friends, listen to these words once more. And I want to tell you, Mrs. Kalb, she had received the questions ahead of time, and she had written her answers. And I guess she anticipated being asked this question as well, even though it was not on the script. And she wrote it out. And so that's how I'm able to preserve her words exactly. I never stopped believing in the Almighty. Even when so many had given up, I knew He was always with me. There are times in life when you realize that you have just seen something overwhelmingly amazing, where you've just experienced standing in the presence of a person who might be one of the holiest people in the entire world. The last selection in Auschwitz, this woman lost everything. I never stopped believing in the Almighty. Even when so many had given up, I knew He was always with me. And what she was saying in these profound yet simple words is that she believed, and she always believed, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was always with her. HaKadosh Baruch Hu always had her back. That even when things looked terrible, not looked terrible, were terrible. There are some things in life that you can go out and say, I'm sure there's a silver lining. And then there's Auschwitz, and then there's selections, and then there's gas chambers, and then there's crematoria, where the human mind is not capable of saying, oh, gam zulatova. Maybe objectively as a klal, we could figure out how this fits in. But without the ability to process some type of positive byproduct from these experiences, she had complete emunah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had her back. That the Ribbon Shalom He's gonna hold me. He's gonna take care of me. He's gonna be there for me. And it dawned on me after that interview that perhaps that's the pshat. Maybe when we were standing at Har Sinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu held the mountain over our heads. Because, chavra, I don't know, I've never stood under a suspended mountain. But I would imagine that when you're standing under a suspended mountain, right, a mountain dislodged from the earth, you're there with your kids, with your spouse, with your mishpacha, with your family, and there's a mountain over your head. I would imagine that there's only one question that's going through your mind, which is this mountain going to fall on my head? Not a deep and profound question, but a legitimate question. Is this the end? Is this the end? Is this the end of me? Is this the end of my family? And perhaps what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was trying to get us to do was to believe in that moment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's got my back. He's not going to let the mountain fall on me. That Ribono Shel Olam always has got my back. And in this moment where the true relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael is being forged, that relationship is not simply rooted in our ability to comply with commandments. That's important. And that relationship is not simply defined by our adherence to the details. That is unequivocally important. But you want to know what the real essence of a relationship between a Jew and his God is? That I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to hold up the mountain. That's what I believe. That Hashem is going to hold up the mountain. That no matter how scary it looks, no matter how overwhelming it looks, no matter in my personal life, no matter at the last selection at Auschwitz, I know that the Almighty was always with me. That Hashem will always hold up the mountain. And perhaps that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was trying to teach us. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a threat. It was an exercise in emunah. Do you believe, Klal Yisrael, that I, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will hold up the mountain? Because I love you. And all I want to do is hold up the mountain. All I want to do is have your back. But do you believe that? Do you believe that? And perhaps this is the pshat, all the Mefarshim tried to understand the first of the Aseres HaDibros, right? The first commandment, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. What's the commandment? In other words, commandment number 2, don't have any other gods, right? Okay, that makes sense. That's something I have to. What is Anochi Hashem Elokecha? I am. What is it I'm supposed to do? I am Hashem. I'm Hashem your God, and what? And perhaps this is the pshat. Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I am Hashem your God, who always holds the mountain up. I got you. I got you. In times of difficulty, I have you. In times of simcha, I have you. At times that you think that the mountain is going to come crushing down, and even sometimes in life when stuff does come crushing down, I have you. Anochi Hashem Elokecha is the need to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has our back. That's the first dibra, and that's the experience of suspending the mountain, and that's the message of Mrs. Goldie Kalb. All the same yesod, to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is holding the mountain up above our heads. I'm not going to drown. I'm not going to be lost. Yeah, things are difficult at times, but I'm not going to be crushed underneath the mountain because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is holding it up for me. And dear friends, what a profound and overwhelming lesson for us. Because we all go through life and there are times where there's a mountain over our head. The mountain looks all different ways. Sometimes the mountain is because of shalom bayis, parnasa, livelihood, refuah, whatever type of challenges, because we all have the challenges. Challenges with our children, challenges not having children, challenges with mental health, challenges just of being happy. We all have we really do. There's no person who doesn't have challenges that they contend with day in and day out. And so often I feel in those moments, we all have those moments where I'm going to be buried by these challenges. I feel that's it. This is the end. I'm just going to be buried. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, remember when your ancestors, 3.5 million people, stood under a mountain? And then I taught them, I got you. I will hold the mountain up for you. I will always hold the mountain up for you. That's the confidence that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. We will never be buried by the mountains suspended over us. We will never be lost by the challenges that life presents to us. Mrs. Goldie Kalb taught us that tremendous lesson. The Ribono Shel Olam teaches us that tremendous lesson. I kept the mountain suspended above your head, keeping you from being crushed at Har Sinai, and I will always help to keep the mountains of difficulty and challenge suspended over your heads as well. I will not let you get crushed. I will not let you get destroyed. And if we could just have that emunah, that belief that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has our back, that He will continue to hold up the mountain, then there is no telling what we could accomplish. Wishing everyone a good night of Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.